Hello, welcome back to Regal in Real Life. Before I get into this video, which is really, I want to talk to you about friendships and actually more specifically, the loss of friendships or where you're trying to kind of cut ties with someone, but actually maybe they're not quite there yet. That is what I want to talk about today. However, before we do that, I just wanted to get into this look. What do we think? What do we think? Um, yeah, so I actually have my nails done, which is unusual for me, and I really struggled with getting used to them. Like I was typing like this. It was really difficult. But anyway, I think I'm gonna keep them, I'm gonna redo them and I'm gonna keep them and I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try because, I just turned 35 and I'm ready to be a corporate baddie. But anyway, completely different subject. I will talk about that a little bit more later. Um, Yes. So friendships. So as I said, it was my birthday and I received some cards in the post. I've not, I've recently moved. When I say recently, I mean like in the last few years. And the person that I had stepped back from and told that I needed space and actually essentially blocked because I just could not cope with dealing with them at that time sent me a birthday card in the post, and it completely blindsided me because I didn't think they even had my new address. That might be something I need to explore as to how they got it, because I think only one other person has my address, and that person I also cut ties with at a very similar time. And this was generally around just realizing a complete misalignment within our values and our friendship and our politics, which to them is often, oh, well, it's just politics. To me, it's not. My life is political. I'm a Black woman. I'm an immigrant, etc., etc., etc. So, you know, just a complete misalignment, a support of certain political parties who are very anti-immigrant, and dare I say, have expressed racist views and policies that are, in my opinion, rooted within racism, anti-Blackness. But let me not digress. That was the basis of me kind of going, okay, final straw that broke the camel's back, shall we say. And I just said, I have so much going on. I've just started a new job. I've just graduated. I have ongoing immigration things. I am learning and writing this lecture around racism. I'm researching racism. Everything was just on top of me. And this is not an excuse, because I think if I had to do it again, I would have done the same thing. But when I look back at the situation, I do question whether I essentially should have handled it in this way at that time, shared, expressed exactly what it was that had upset me, frustrated me, and why I was stepping back from the friendship. It's not to say that I wouldn't still step back from the friendship, but I may have done it in a different way. However, everything in hindsight, we learn, we live and we learn. And to be honest with you, aside from the fact that this person has contacted me and that the other person has attempted to contact me, but I did not therefore respond to that person. Um, and it's just because of the difference in the way that one has contacted me and the other. One felt more sincere and more willing and open to understand that perhaps, there was an issue. Maybe they had done something hurtful. Whereas the other was quite generic and it was just a form of opening communication, which I'm a straightforward person. I prefer things to be spoken about out in the open. There is never going to be a time where I'm just going to brush things under the carpet and just keep it moving. And we're just going to go back to kiki and kakaring and afternoon tea. It's not going to happen. And especially not after this length of time. So this specific card that I just received from one friend, it was at least acknowledging that there had been an issue, and it was essentially saying that they cared about me, they loved me, etc. And I appreciated the sincerity of their message. I do not have hard feelings toward these people. I do not hate them. I still love these people. They've been my friends for a long time, and they are people who I have seen me go through quite a lot. But I think that is actually part of why it's so difficult, because I think even in knowing what I have been through, what I continue to go through, and my circumstances, um, there was just a complete lack of empathy, compassion, care, understanding. And I do hate to relate that to the fact that they are white women and I am a black woman. But unfortunately, I do think that is a big part of where those challenges in communication and in understanding what my values are versus what their values are, what I find important versus what they find important. It's so difficult. I was very much being framed as the good immigrant. You belong here. How you look what you have had to go through. It's not fair that these people this and these people get everything and you've had to do. And I was just like, no, we're not going to do that. We are not going to use me and my circumstances as a way to be hateful towards other people, other individuals, refugees, people who are just trying to make a life for themselves, who are, fleeing war torn countries. Have some compassion. Have some compassion. If you were in a circumstance, these are people, these are women, these are children, these are families, have some compassion. And again, our context definitely plays a part in these discussions. And I'm never going to be a person who says, I don't see color, I don't see race, as much as some of my friends would like to handle these discussions in that way. So, anyway, I was just completely blindsided by the fact that I received this card. I was even a little bit annoyed with my husband because I was like, why would you give me this card on my birthday? Because now I am focused on this. I am focused on this individual. I'm feeling like I need to respond to them because I need to let them know I've received it and it's received, and I'm happy that they've done it and I'm grateful and da 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 da. Happy that they've done it is probably not the correct, but what I'm saying is I could feel okay. But anyway, I then said, I then unblocked this person. I messaged them, I spoke to them, and I just said, thank you. I care about you too. I miss you. I love you. I appreciate your message. However, in terms of us rekindling the friendship, for me, there's a lot that I would need to express to you because I don't know how possible essentially it is for us to rekindle at this stage, considering the context that I knew, understood, which was my kind of straw that broke the camel's back. Um, and, there were other things throughout both of these friendships, just in terms of, I am always that friend who is the cheerleader, who is the therapist, who is supportive, who is, and meanwhile, I've never felt that same sense of care, really, truly, from either of these friends, and in different ways because they are different people. But I think, that context is also such an important part of it because it really influenced the bigger picture, around values and political views and things like that. So yeah, it has been a bit of a week and a half, and I've been feeling so it's such a strange feeling. I said to them, I need to send you an email. Things are better for me in writing. For them, they prefer voice notes. They don't prefer that. Sometimes I feel that that is a way in which people try to control you because they know that when you speak to them in person, when you see them in person, there's that love, there's that care, there's those memories, there's that nostalgia. And that often time can take precedence over your actual emotions and how you've been feeling and the things that you've kept to yourself. And I do feel that people are sometimes strategic in that and they understand that. But I also understand, brains work differently, and some people do, really struggle with writing and struggle, to respond and things like that. But I guess the experiences I've had, um, oftentimes it just feels like that's a way just to get you in the room, get you in front of me. Let's talk about it. We'll hug it out. We'll hash it out. And that will be that. But actually, I often will not be as vocal or as verbal because I always will go into protective mode. And again, there's a racial element to that as well. You know, the Black woman has to protect the white woman's feelings, and kind of sugarcoat things, and not express in the way that we would want to express ourselves, because actually, oh my goodness, are you going to end up crying? Are you going to make a scene in this restaurant that we're in? What is going to come out of this? So I do prefer to put things in writing and give you some time to process that, so that you can actually process what you need to process. And of course, that's what I did the first time around, when, you know, before our relationship kind of broke down. And that resulted in an expression of frustration and anger and upset via voice note, via phone calls, that I just was not willing to engage with or able to mentally cope and engage with at that time. So, yes, that is the context. Um, and what I've realized is I am at a stage in my life where I am so content with who I am. I'm so content with my own values and the things that matter to me. I'm so content with my family. I'm so content with the few friends and loved ones that I have around me, that I realize, and I'm so healed, you know, I'm no longer seeking the validation of people. I'm no longer seeking to fit in. I'm no longer seeking friendships that do not serve me. You know, I've never really viewed friendships as transactional, but meanwhile, I feel that that has left me at a disadvantage, because I have had friends take and take and take and pull of my energy as much as they could, without pouring back into me, or without giving me the same quality care and time and energy and thought and love. And I don't hate people because of that, because we're all different. And I know I'm, as I say, a very sensitive soul. I don't expect people to be exactly as I am. And I don't claim to be the most amazing friend in the world, because that's absolutely not the truth either, especially in recent years. And much of that is that I had started to pull back for a long time. I've also been very, very full on in terms of studying, you know, my degree, and you know, having babies and all of these things. So naturally, that happens as we age, and life kind of moves forward, and we just kind of do. And that's a natural process and part of life as well. So I'm very much aware of that. But I think, um, for me, it's just so important to be aligned, to be aligned. And I feel that I've always been the friend, because we were originally quite a friendship circle, a friendship group, if you will. We all came from um, our musical background, um, which was what brought us really close together. And it felt really wonderful, as if we could be quite authentic in that creative space with each other. You know, it came with a lot of competition and jealousy and girl band madness that I, again, just never wanted to. I just never wanted to engage in any of that. And I was often the middle person, trying to, you know, make people see that the patriarchy had done this to us, and we need to love each other and support each other. We can't let the men win, you know, in the band, the men in the band. Because, you know, there's a lot of pitting against each other. There was a lot of shallowness. And I just never, it was just never something that I really felt comfortable with. But again, that friendship was born at a time where I had just left my tumultuous family situation. Police were involved, all these different things. I was very vulnerable. And again, there was a long time where that was the only work that I could actually do, due to my immigration um, circumstances. So again, when I say these friends have been with me through a lot of that, a lot of, you know, coming of age and whatnot else, I mean that. You know, we've seen a lot of each other. And, you know, we used to joke, we have to stay friends forever, you know too much. We used to, you know, we used to, I think one of them gave me that as a card, or a magnet or something. And we used to joke about that, but sometimes it felt real, you know? But I got to a point where I said, you know what? We're adults now. We're grown. We have families. We're married. We have to understand that whatever it is whatever trauma bond that we have and the why as to why we became friends in the first place, if we're just no longer aligned like that, it's okay. It is absolutely okay. And I think I've made peace with that. And unfortunately, I don't think friends will have made peace with that because perhaps I didn't allow for that closure because I had to step back. I just had to. For my own mental health, I just had to. I really struggle with the fact that my friends don't understand my context as an immigrant woman. They don't understand the things I've been through and continue to go through with this, UK immigration system. Um, and that's me being a woman who has been here since I was 3 years old, 32 years here, 32 years. And I just felt like my friends should understand. They should understand my context. And if my friends don't understand that context, on top of all the other things that I've spoken about, then maybe we shouldn't be friends anymore. And I made peace with that. I've made peace with that. Uh, Actually expressing to her, I don't know how it will make her feel. I don't know what she'll be experiencing from that expression. She's sent me a message. Um, and I've told her to take her time, process it, because I'm not forcing anything. I'm not here to force anything. We do not have to be friends. I have made peace. But at the same time, this particular individual is not a bad person. And I know they're not a bad person. I just think we are different. We are different, and that's okay. That is okay. And you can be friends with people who are different to you. But I think when those differences, when those values question your own life, your own livelihood, your own sense of belonging, your identity, when people try to erase your identity in order to make themselves feel better about their racism, essentially. And this is not this particular friend, but the other, I had a friend say, "Oh, well, you're not African, but you're not African," after her family members repeatedly said to my face how they don't like Africans. They don't like Africans, but you're so beautiful, Kim. We love you, Kim, but we love you. And I said, trying to tell my friend, get your nan. Please get these people out of my face. And her response was just to laugh it off and say, "Oh, I've already told her you're not African." And that made me think, well, how often do you have this conversation? And first of all, do you understand anything about history? I am African. Whether you understand the transatlantic slave trade and why my people may have ended up in the Bahamas or not, that's your problem. And that's just really how I felt about it at the time. But don't tell me I'm not African. I'm of African descent. And again, it just felt like, why am I having this? Why do I have to have this conversation? Why do I have to have this conversation? You're anti-Black, you're anti-African, whatever you are anti, you're not going to frame me as the good and acceptable immigrant. I'm never going to be that for you. Never going to be that for anyone. Never. And that's just something I had to, that was the boundary. That was a boundary and it was crossed. So I'm at peace with that. However, I'm certain that certain people are not at peace with that and maybe don't even understand that they did wrong. But that was definitely one that I said, actually, no, I don't have to explain this. This has gone too far. Whereas the friend who has recently been in touch with me, it's not the case. It's not the case. So, I'm a little bit more open to that, but I'm not, I'm at peace. Let's just put it that way. If we are to carry on as we have been, as in before she made this contact, I'd be at peace with that. But anyway, just more of my ramblings. Just wanted to come and share, something that had happened recently in my life. And I wonder if anyone can relate, with the socio-political context of the United Kingdom at the moment, with all this anti-immigration stuff, with all this reform rhetoric. How are we doing out there? Are we okay? Are you okay? Have we lost friends? Who are we dealing with and not dealing with anymore? Have we had to cut ties with people? Are we surprised by anyone we had to cut ties with? I would love to know. Please like, comment, and subscribe if this resonates with you, if you're dealing with or have been through a similar situation. Because I think so many of us are going through this kind of thing right now. And it's such a hard thing to explain to somebody who just doesn't get it. Um, and that is their privilege. They don't have to understand it. But I really like to think and hope that there are people out there who understand what I'm talking about, because it is such a real thing. And it has happened at so many different stages of the last decade. I'm talking, well, I can remember when Brexit was happening, similar conversations were going on, what people think, what they don't think, who they align with, etc. Then you had Black Lives Matter. I mean, you could hear crickets. There was no one. No one said anything. And I was speaking to people on a regular because we were in the middle of a pandemic and we were doing those, wide and WhatsApp situations. Not one iota. And now there's this. And it was, oh yeah, love that. Love Nigel. Love Nigel Farage. Love reform. Oh yeah, my husband's thinking about reform. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, as if I haven't detached already enough from you. You literally want to just throw a bomb. And that's how it felt at the time. It really did, because I was just navigating this world that was just feeling less and less welcoming. Racism, and I'm talking about outright daily, just clear. We'd moved to this new town and it was much less diverse from where we came from. And people would just stare at us. We're an interracial family. So I think it's just even like, ugh, why? Why are you guys doing this? Or even, why her? The way that some, I hope this sounds okay because I've just been messing around with my microphone, but the way that some women like to look at you when they see you with a white man is just, it needs to be studied. It needs to be studied. And that is just, yeah, there is so much. And you don't need that so much to be in your safe space in your home. No, you don't need that so much to be around your children. You don't need that so much to be who you hang out with at the weekend. You don't need that so much to be who you go out for lunch with or afternoon tea. No, there's enough of that out in the world, and I try and keep myself safe, psychologically safe, and away from it, let alone being around it with people whom I care and love and have a love for, who I thought cared and loved me. But again, it's the, oh yeah, but you're different. Oh yeah, but you're not like the rest of them. You do realize that's not a compliment, right? I've had to deal with that type of my entire life, working life, right? You're so different. You're not like them. You're so pretty. And I'm over it. I'm over it. I do not need that validation. I do not need it. Never needed it, but just never had the strength and the power in myself to speak up and defend my. Well, I've always been that person. But at the time, what I don't have, okay, I've always been that person. I've always been that person. As I say, generally the token person within friendship circles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've always been that person speaking up, advocating. And then I got to a point where I said, I don't have the energy for this. It's not my job to educate an ignorant person. They can remain ignorant and I can remain in peace by just pulling back my energy and not, going to that gathering or going to that barbecue or spending time with these people. And that's what I've had to do. And sometimes I'm like, why? I don't have many friends. Is that my neurodivergence? No, I think I'm just tired. like I am tired of having to navigate those things on top of all the things. I just don't want to do it anymore. And I've been at such peace with not having to do that. You know, safe space. Now, yes, I have to go out into work and things happen at work and people say things that I don't agree with, or things that are borderline, or things that are anti everything. Like, it happens. It happens all the time, unfortunately. But you know what? That's a professional space. I'm paid to be there. I can do what I need to do, and then I can remove myself when I need to remove myself. But even still, we spend so much time at work. That's why I have to also, consider and query and navigate whether or not that is a safe space and psychologically safe space for me to be in for longer term. But definitely don't need to consider that when it comes to friendships. Should not have to consider that when it comes to loved ones. Should not and will not. And that is a pledge that I've made to myself, not even just recently when all of this happened. So, yeah, just another thing I'm proud of, just another thing that's happened within the last year, and just such growth. I feel like there's been such growth. And although I know that that growth or that healing might not be, to everyone's liking, and people might feel hard done by because of that, I have to do what's right for me and what's right for my family. And that just means that I need us to be around, our tribe. We need to be around people who get it and who understand. And that can be someone from any background, any ethnicity, any skin tone. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. And that's it. We are a loving family. We love and have compassion for people, and we understand nuance and context. And we understand that, you know, so much of this is something that people need to learn, or that we've even learned over the years, and that not everyone is there yet. We've got that. We're willing to give grace, but there's only so much that you can take when you're on the receiving end of these conversations, and there's only so much as a Black woman, immigrant woman, who has ongoing challenges, that you are willing to give of yourself to explain these situations to people who know have full capacity and capability to go and do that research themselves, or to at least try and, put themselves into your shoes and think, I'm saying this to my Black immigrant friend. How might that happen? How might that go down? I'm tired of having to be the person who's emotionally aware and intelligent in all circumstances. I'm just ready to protect and guard my peace and my energy and my safety, psychological safety, physical safety, because honestly, over time, this stuff breaks you down physically. And there is so much evidence and research being done into this, racism, and microaggressions, and how it just has the ability over time to actually impact your physical health, not just your mental health, your physical and your mental health. And it's not a cost I'm willing to pay anymore. So anyway, I'm actually going now. If this resonates with you, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what kind of situations you found yourself in. And again, have you lost anyone over this last 3 years, decade? What has it been? It's just ongoing, isn't it? It's ongoing, and I'm sure it will continue to be ongoing. Which is just it's just madness. Such a shame. Such a shame. Anyway, I'm gonna go now. Speak soon. Bye.